In this edition of End Time Insights, we're going to be discussing Daniel's 70 weeks and the supposed tally of a 490-year period pertaining to the 70 weeks. I'm going to show you in this episode how that's not possible, how that's inaccurate, and why. Because, folks, I'm going to say right now, the book of Daniel was sealed until the time of the end. Folks, as I said in my open, we have believed for centuries. My research is only so good. I mean, I think we can go back about a millennia where people have believed and have been persuaded that the 70 weeks seen in Daniel chapter 9 that we're going to be discussing here tonight equates to a 490-year tally. And at the same time, having said that, I also am aware in Daniel chapter 12, 2 times God told Daniel when he was troubled. He says in verse 8 of chapter 12, he says, I heard, but I understood not. And God tells him in Daniel chapter 9, the very next verse, go thy way, Daniel, for the words are closed up and sealed even until the time of the end. So even though he could hear what God was saying, he didn't get it, and that's what bothered him, and he was troubled throughout these visions. He wasn't understanding. He also was told the same thing, go thy way in verse 4, Daniel chapter 12. Go thy way, shut up the words, seal the book, even to the time of the end. Folks, here's the thing that troubles me and has troubled me for a very long time. I believe we all place our salvation on every jot and tittle God says. Every word he breathes or utters is absolute. I live my whole life believing that. If I hear God say something, I'll go to my grave, to my death, believing that word is absolute, accurate. God is going to, when he says it, he will honor it. That every single word he says in his word, every single word he ever says, he watches over to see that it occurs and it comes to pass. That's the way I live my life. That's the way I think we all have to live our lives. We believe everything and anything he says to our death. We stake our salvation on it. And yet when God told Daniel, when he was troubled because he heard and didn't get it, didn't make sense. And let me say this, when he said, God said the words are shut up and sealed even to the time of the end, we're not talking about the words on a paper or a book. We can read Daniel all we want, can't we? So obviously God wasn't talking about the book of Daniel or the words on a paper, because even Daniel heard, but he didn't get it. And his response to him not understanding was that they were sealed. So we're not talking about the book. There's only 2 choices here. It's either the words on a paper, of which if that's what it is, then God's already failed because I can read the book all day long. So we can't be talking about the words on a paper. We're talking about the meaning, and that is what troubled Daniel. But not even Daniel was privy to the meaning, folks. Not even our beloved Daniel. And yet, theses that are out there, one, namely just one, the main one when it comes to 70 weeks, we've all equated this, everybody has, that it's a 490-year tally. Now, folks, this has been going on, I can say right now, centuries. It goes on long. I think about a millennia, but I only have so many tools at my disposal. Some of you really had to look how far it goes back. It probably goes back farther than that. But the belief in that Daniel's 70 weeks are 490 years, and I say this one thing, if the meaning of this has been sealed until the time of the end, and I can tell you right now, a millennia or centuries ago was not the end. Why would we think what we're hearing centuries ago could have any ability or even a prayer or a hope of being accurate if the book was been sealed until the end? That's not possible, is it? And yet we believe it is. It's almost like I've heard people say this, that, well, God loves his kids. Folks, there was no criteria what God was telling Daniel. It's sealed from everybody except my kids or certain people that I love. Not even Daniel was privy to the meaning of it. So why would we think God can circumvent his word? I know he can't lie, folks. It's immutable. It's impossible for him to lie. So if he says it's sealed from everybody, unless there's criteria that says it's not sealed from so-and-so or that kind of thing. And it wasn't. It is simply sealed. Now that's my problem with this. What we've been listening to for so long, we're putting a lot of faith and stock, and yet we're forgetting God's word. And to me, that's extremely problematic. Now, I only have so much time with you tonight, so I'm going to kind of hurry. I'm sorry about hurrying, but I want to discuss the 70 weeks. And I want to tell you what God said. I want you to hear what he said, and I want you to find out now why. It's not 490 years. Now, I want to start off quick. Like I said, I only got so much time. In Daniel 9, Daniel's praying, and he understands that there's going to be 70 years. This is historic. It's already happened. Nobody argues this. There's going to be 70 years appointed for Jerusalem to suffer. And he's referring to in verse 2 of what he learned from Jeremiah the prophet, which pertains to Jeremiah chapter 29, verse 10. This is not really the 70-week part, but I want to bring this in because there's been an argument out there that there's these 70 years, and I was kind of listening to it. God never told me anything about it, never taught, but I was getting hooked up into it. I got to tell you, I really was. That the 70 years wasn't just historic, but that it was going to occur again. And there's that argument out there. Not putting aside that it hadn't happened in the past, but there's people that believed it was happening again or would happen again. And that being that from 1948, when Israel flew their flag, even though Jerusalem wasn't in their possession yet, would be 70 years, and that would take us to 2018, and that would be May of 2018, and Jesus would come, because these 70 weeks that we're about to see do take us to the Messiah, folks. So Daniel's praying, he gets it, and Daniel is visited later in the chapter, about verse 21. I'm going to start, and I'm going to read it to you. He's visited by Gabriel, and he's told another timeline to desolations in Jerusalem. Now, again, I was buying the 70 years thing. That's possible. I guess, if it wasn't God, obviously it wasn't God, or we would have had the Messiah in 2018, folks, is what we're about to read. So Daniel's given another timeline, another timeline that are also going to pertain to the desolations of Jerusalem. Now, I want to start about, again, verse 23, I believe we're going to go. Sorry, I'm rushing, and I don't like to rush, but I want to get out enough information so I don't leave you guys hanging. You think, well, he's just talking. No, I want you guys to get it all. Here comes Gabriel, verse 23, chapter 9. At the beginning of thy supplications, and the commandment came forth, and I am come to show thee, for thou art greatly beloved. Therefore understand the matter and consider the vision. Now remember, he was praying and understanding about the 70 years of desolations that Jeremiah referred to. Now he gets something else. Another timeline. Another 70. Not 70 years. No, this is 70 weeks. Verse 24, 70 weeks are determined upon thy people and upon thy holy city to finish the transgression, listen to this, and to make an end of sins, and to make reconciliation for iniquity, and to bring in everlasting righteousness, and to seal up the vision and prophecy, and to anoint the most holy. Folks, this takes us right to God. This takes us right to Jesus, okay? So 70 weeks are going to take us to Jesus. Now, there's two camps out there that believe this occurs two different ways. Now, I want you to understand the two camps that have been there for forever, if you haven't heard this yet. We're about to hear how they get the tally, but I want you to understand the camps that are out there. The 70 weeks, they're broken down into 69 and then the 70th week. Both camps believe that from the commandment to restore and to build Jerusalem, it ended with the life of Christ. They tally this as 483 years. I'll show you in a second. Both camps believe it ended there. One camp believes the whole 70 weeks ended with the life of Christ and the destruction of Jerusalem back then in 70 AD. The other camp says the 70th week is separated from the 69th, and it's going to happen. The 70th week hasn't happened yet, and it's somewhere off in the future, and that's mainstream, folks, that the 70th week hasn't occurred. That's the two camps that are there. Yet both camps tell you it's a 490-year tally. I want to make it understood what's there. Here's how they get it. Verse 25, know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and to build Jerusalem unto the Messiah, the Prince, shall be 7 weeks, 62 weeks. The street shall be built again, and the wall even in troublous times. Did you hear that? Here's the tally. Here's how it goes. It shall be 7 weeks, 62 weeks, which is 62. And here's what everybody has always done. And I'm going to say that's all we ever could understand or do, because the book has been sealed until the time of the end. We take the 7 weeks, everybody takes the 7 weeks and the 62 weeks, folks, okay? And we add them together. 7 plus 62 weeks is 69 weeks, right? So we take the 69 weeks and we add it times 7 because a week is 7. So we take 69 times 7, we got ourselves 483 years for the 69 weeks, which is going to take us to the 70th in verse 27 that I'll get to in a second. You understanding this? 69 weeks times 7 gives us 483 years. Everybody says that it ended with the life of Christ. Okay, these 69 weeks also takes the destruction of Jerusalem. Yet nobody's ever been able to make it work to bring that actually to the 70 AD one that I've ever seen. Doesn't matter. The point is, that's when Jerusalem was destroyed. I ask a question, folks. One day I'm reading this verse because I wanted to look years back when people were saying the 70-year tally thing, the 70 years, which is what Daniel was praying about. People were saying it's going to happen 1948 to 2018. I was listening to it. I was. What do I know? What do I know? I don't know anything. I'm reading the verse, and God spoke, and he said differentiate. He said one word, differentiate. So I ask you this question because I want you to get it. I want you to rationalize this out, folks. Why did God say it would be 7 weeks and 62 weeks? Why? Why didn't he just say 69? Right? I mean, if God has went so far as to say 62, you think he can add the other 7? Obviously he could. Why did he separate the weeks? All we've ever seen, though, folks, we always 7 plus 62. We got ourselves 69. I ask a question, though. Why couldn't God, if he's went so far again to say 62, why can't he just add 7 on top of that and get yourself 69? Doesn't God know how to say 69? Of course he does. But God said differentiate, and I knew instantaneously how to add it and what he meant. Folks, these are different kinds of weeks. We have ourselves weeks of years, weeks of days. That's why he could not put them together, because they're different types of weeks. Do you hear what I said? Are you getting this, folks? He couldn't say 69. Not that he doesn't know how. I mean, obviously he got up to 62. He can count the other 7. I know God can add. So he didn't say 69 because he couldn't. Different types of weeks, weeks of years, weeks of days, folks. And when you add them all up, you got yourself a Jubilee cycle plus 75 days into the week. Listen, here's how you do it. 7 weeks, 7 times 7. A week is 7, so 7 weeks. 7 times 7, 49. You got yourself 62 weeks, regular weeks. Just regular weeks, folks. Weeks of days. A year and 2.5 months. You put that with the 49, you got yourself a Jubilee, a 50-year cycle, plus 75 days into the next cycle. This is why God could not say 69, because they're different types. And we've been incapable of seeing what's been right in front of us because the book has been sealed until now. It's not a coincidence, folks. We've never understood the separation, and that's why. They're different types of weeks. Otherwise, God simply would have said 69. Now, what I want to keep going, I want you to understand some of these, because here, get a load of this. It gets even more complicated, folks, and I'm running out of time, but I got to make it quick for you. If you understand this, that we're now looking at a 50-year cycle plus 75 days in the week, what do we have to do now? We cannot take this 50-year cycle and put it back to millennia ago. It has nothing to do with that destruction of Jerusalem, does it? Or Jesus would have already come. Because this brings us to the most holy. This brings us to God. Everything's over with. Sins and over everything. It's all over with at the ending of this 70 weeks. If it had happened then, Jesus would have came back then. So we can't take this 50-year cycle and put it back there. It has nothing to do with back then. I want us to keep reading. I want you to see something here real quick, because this is going to be problematic. What we are talking about is the destruction of Jerusalem again. And some people say, well, that's not even biblical. Oh, that's what Armageddon is, folks. You can read in Joel about how it talks about how they've parted my land. God gets jealous, and at the very end, it's bad, and we all come down basically, and we save Israel. Did you know that? So there is another point in time, Israel is going to be surrounded, and there's lots of places scripturally that shows you this. I don't know why everybody's thinking Jerusalem's not going to be attacked again. There's a lot. Listen, I'll tell you real quick. Most people aren't even aware of this. Obama on his way out of office. 1 month before he's gone, he orchestrated a parting gift to Israel. And he told the UN make another vote, which the international community, everybody wanted Israel back to pre-1967 borders, and he had them vote, and UN Resolution 2334 went through, and Israel, according to the international community and international law, is back to pre-1967 borders, according to the international community and international law. In fact, every settlement after 1967, according to international law, is a flagrant violation. Did you know that? What am I doing? I'm showing you what I already saw, and I talked about it on YouTube, folks. I have a YouTube channel. You should probably go over there. Cochran Ministries. Just go to youtube.com/Cochran Ministries. You'll see teachings like this where I talked about ahead of time. And in fact, I gave a prophecy in October 2016. This came to pass December 2016 as Obama was leaving. The UN Resolution 2334. I said Jerusalem was going to be attacked again. What point is, this is the roadmap. This is the pathway. I know what Trump is doing, folks, but you take Trump out of the equation and you put the United States into caring about our own, and we have our own problems or whatever. If we go on the sidelines, they've got a green light. The international community has a green light to go in there and toss everybody out of Jerusalem the way they would like to do it. Nobody's going to say anything except us and Israel. And what if we don't say anything? I'm just telling you that the pathway, the roadmap's there, and we don't think, no, it's there right now, and this is going to be the excuse when it does happen. Now, I want to tell you this. I know I'm sidetracking, but I might as well read you real quick. Here's what's going to happen, folks. I want you to understand the 69 weeks, which is going to take you to the 70th. At the ending of the 69 weeks, this 50-year cycle plus 75 days into the next cycle, or the 70th week, is going to take you to the destruction of Jerusalem. Verse 26, and after 62 weeks, that's just a year and 2.5 months, or that's the Jubilee year, and 2.5 months in the next cycle. After 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off. Jesus being cut off, but not for himself. He doesn't do this. It has nothing to do with him. He's just being cut off. And the people of the prince that shall come, the prince that shall come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary, and the end thereof shall be with flood, and unto the end of the war desolations are determined. Are you hearing this, folks? After the 69 weeks, the 70th week, by the way, is verse 27, I'll get to in a second. After this 50-year cycle plus 75 days into the next cycle, or 75 days in the week, we've got ourselves the destruction of Jerusalem. And I know this isn't making any sense to people considering the theses that are out there about these 70 weeks. And I'm telling you, it's all been wrong. And it's not a coincidence. We have 75 days in the destruction according to this, if this is accurate, and it is. I'm going to tell you about a decade ago, I'm going to prayer. Because I want this to make sense to some of you. I'm going to prayer. I'm sitting down, and as I'm getting ready to sit down, I saw in the Spirit two timelines come together. I'm watching the Spirit. I start smiling really big. I see two timelines, two biblical timelines, one in Daniel 12 and one in Revelation 12, come together and overlap each other right in front of me. The one in Daniel 12 is 12:12. Blessed is he that waits and comes to the 1335th day. So that started, and I saw that one. I saw then 75 days later, a 1260-day marker, which is Revelation 12, where the woman is cast out of the city, and eagle wings carry her out of the city, escorting her out, basically. We're not keeping her in. We're escorting her out into the wilderness for another 1260 days, where a flood goes after the woman, and the earth has to help the woman. And she's out there. This woman is Israel, folks. Jerusalem is out there for 1260 days, and the earth has to help her and swallow up the flood, basically. Are you hearing me, folks? So, I know we're saying America's the ally, great, but we didn't thwart the enemy. Are you understanding? We didn't thwart them. We actually helped them get out, or at least we made sure they got out safely. And we didn't stop or prevent anything because the earth had to help the woman, or other armies help the woman or help Israel while she's out there in the wilderness. For 1260 days, what's my point? I'm going to show you a piece in my book that I have. This that I saw in the Spirit, these two timelines. How, if I want you to understand something, folks, blessed and he that waits and comes to the 1335th day. Right, I'm going to show you down below a portion of my book, these two timelines I saw together. If you go 1335 days, it's a day that you're blessed. What would that day be that you're blessed? Do you know 1260 days she's out there, the woman also? And that's what's going to be the deliverance of her? Are you hearing me, folks? What is going to be the deliverance of Israel out there? It's going to be Jesus. So this 1335 days takes you the same day the 1260 days takes you to. But the 75-day interval after this 1335-day countdown begins, 75 days later brings you the 1260-day mark, and you got yourself the destruction of Jerusalem. Folks, I couldn't have put that. That's what I saw in the Spirit. And then when God spoke to me here and said, differentiate, and I saw the 69 weeks is a 50-year cycle plus 75 days in the next, again, still taking you to the destruction of Jerusalem. I couldn't have done that. I couldn't have understood the 75-day marker into the week. Now, listen to me, folks. Some of you aren't going to be able to get this because I know what's believed in verse 27. I don't got a lot of time. That too is wrong. It is believed. Now, you're going to find, I should probably say this. Right now, you can see the contradictions between this 483-year period thesis and that belief, and the belief with verse 27. If you're going to believe that this is a 50-year cycle and it's 75 days into the week, you have a direct contradiction which is believed with verse 27 of Daniel. And that is, according to verse 27, what people believe is that an Antichrist stands up, forms a newly formed 7-year peace treaty made with Israel. And it's a 7-year peace treaty. In the middle of it, he breaks this peace treaty. They then take this, church has then taken this and coupled it with the 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 and said this is where he goes into the temple and he sits and declares himself God. The error would be, I'd say only right now, was coupling 2 Thessalonians with 27. I want to give you right now what 27 cannot be and has not meant. Who would have ever thunk it doesn't mean it either? No, guys, listen. If the book has been sealed, then everything we've been listening to for centuries, including what I'm about to tell you, this thesis that I just gave you, has been out there too. Wouldn't we be looking for something in the end? Wouldn't it just come, if God's word is absolute, folks, wouldn't we look for a new revelation in the end, not something that's been out there for ages and ages? It doesn't make any sense. He sealed it until the end, and I'm telling you that's where we are right now. I want you to understand, here's what 927 does not mean that. Here's your 70th week. Again, it's a direct contradiction. If we got 75 days into the week, listen, if we got 75 days into the week and Jerusalem's being destroyed in the sanctuary, then there is no correct thesis that the Antichrist is going to stand up, form himself a peace treaty, newly formed peace treaty with Israel, mind you, and all that. It's a direct contradiction, isn't it? Yet one's true and one isn't. I'm telling you right now, based on understanding that the book has been sealed, this thesis that this is what 927 means is not what it means. Listen to the verse. I'm going to give you the verse just so you can hear this. 927, and he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. That's first sentence. It doesn't say, first off, folks, who the he is even, does it? No, it doesn't say that, and yet we automatically say it's the Antichrist. Again, we've linked it up with 2 Thessalonians. So this is the Antichrist, and yet listen to this, folks. And he shall confirm the covenant. Suggesting a newly formed covenant? No, folks, suggesting an existing covenant. And he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. Did you hear the many? Didn't say Israel, did it? And yet we say it says Israel. We've done that too, haven't we? It's got to be Israel. Folks, we're talking about implicating things that aren't even there. So he shall confirm the covenant. Who would the he be if there's an existing covenant out there? And who would the many be? For 1 week, and in the midst of the week, he shall cause the sacrifice, singular, to cease. And because of the overspreading, and for the overspreading of abominations, not abomination, folks, And for the overspreading of abominations, widespread sin, he shall make it desolate. The sacrifice. Until the consummation, and that determined, consummation being the end, and that determined is poured upon the desolate, the unrighteous is poured out upon them. Folks, there is another meaning I'm telling you that is not what we've been given. And I'm going to ask you one question real quick. Who or what do you know to be what is the sacrifice, folks? The sacrifice to the church? What is it? What do we know? What does the world know if they were to actually look upward? What is the sacrifice? Throughout the entire New Testament, we are told who the sacrifice is. And I'll tell you this, if we realize the mid-trib rapture, 1,335 days in, 1,260 days in, both bringing us to the same point in time, you have the sacrifice ceasing midweek. Now, there's a whole lot more because I have 2 minutes left. There's a whole lot more I can't give you, but I want to tell you this. You can get all of this and a whole lot more. I want you to understand one thing. Listen to me, folks. This Jubilee cycle has to pertain to a point in time where Jerusalem was told to be rebuilt. And when would that be? Starting in 1948? No. It has to be a Jubilee cycle after 1967, where Israel actually possessed Jerusalem. You understanding? If this is a Jubilee cycle, now people think it's 1917, 1967, 2017. Folks, listen to me. God told the whole, in Leviticus 25, verse 10, he wanted the whole year to be observed. Not part of it, not a middle of it, and yet, if that's the case, folks, God showed up late, didn't he? I'm telling you, those aren't Jubilee. Everybody concedes they don't know when the Jubilee is, but they say it's 1917, 1967, 2017. Folks, there are Jubilee-related events in there, but those weren't the Jubilee. You need to be looking as God giving them what they were going to get in a subsequent year being the actual Jubilee, where he told them to take the whole year out and observe, or God showed up late. We need to be looking for a point in time after 1967 that this Jubilee was in Israel's possession. I'll tell you this, there was a commandment in 1968. In fact, the Israeli government made and formed an organization to rebuild Jerusalem. Again, there's a whole lot more. I want you guys to go to youtube.com/Cochran Ministries, and you'll be navigated where to get some of these teachings that are there in its entirety. You also can get the book, folks. Get this book. You can go to CochranMinistries.com. Middle of the page, you can see 9 chapters of this book. You just click on a video, and it'll give you 9 chapters of this book, and they'll just play automatically. When you get done with one video, you go to the next video, and so forth and so on. If you want to get it, you can preview it. 9 chapters are given to you for free in video form. It's basically narrating. Or you can get it now for $24.95, folks. There's a whole lot more to this. And I want to leave you guys hanging. I'm trying to give you as much information as I can, so I didn't want to just leave you out there. Set your DVRs, folks. There's more teachings to come. That's going to be shocking. Hope to see you at YouTube or Cochran Ministries. Until then, take care and God bless.